Good evening. I feel like Queen Elizabeth's 11th husband. I know exactly what to do, but I just don't know how to make it more interesting. That's what happens when you have had some fantastic speakers before you. My name is Apurva. I head corporate marketing for HCL. HCL, for some of you who are not familiar with us, is a $7 billion IT outsourcing giant. We operate in 32 countries, about 120,000 employees, and we serve many of you who are sitting in this room. In my role, I often get a lot of attention, a lot of people who are trying to sell me stuff. And I think you've heard a lot of marketers' perspectives from how are they implementing social selling. This is a session on a buyer's perspective on how does social selling or lack of social selling impact him. Now, most of this attention is unwanted. 95% is unwanted. There are people who are trying to call in, trying to set up a meeting, often using connections who are known to me. And I'm just going to tell you, I have a best friend, and this friend lives in my mind. And I call this friend the rejection monster. So the rejection monster is this very, very cute sixth sense, if I would call it, who often helps me get through the day by uncluttering my calendar, saving me from pesky emails, from sellers who have not done their jobs. And I'll tell you how does the rejection monster work? What does the rejection monster feed on? And finally, what is the kryptonite you can use against the rejection monster? The rejection monster basically becomes bigger and bigger when it feeds on irrelevant, right? And more sellers feed it, and finally it explodes in fury. And there are days when it happens, and I'm like, seriously? You're the seventh person I'm meeting this week who's coming in to see me and who's asking me, what keeps you awake at night? What projects are you working on? How can we be a strategic partner to you? We are different. We are an agency, but we are really not an agency. And I'm like, what did you mean by that? Does this sound familiar? Are some of us guilty of doing that? I know some of my sales guys do that. Now, the rejection monster is always hungry. Recently, I was driving and I was in London and I get a call in. And for some reason, the number was masked. I think it was an IP phone from an inside sales exec or something. And usually, I don't pick up calls where I don't have the number on my phone. And I ended up picking up the phone call. Now, the seller immediately, it was a lady, I think, with a heavy Chinese accent, and she immediately launched. And she was calling from an event management agency. And I'm not going to take the name because it's a very large agency. And she immediately launched into a sales spiel, even without checking, is this a good time? Am I the right person? And, I could feel for her because I could sense that she's been given a list and she's just going through a list. And she's trying to, read out from a script. And I was trying to throw her off her game because the list will have a certain number of questions, objections, and objection handling answers. And it really didn't work. And the rejection monster ate her up. Ate her so fast before she could realize, right? Now, the second bugbear, which the rejection monster loves eating, is irrelevant content. We all get a lot of emails. A quick show of hands. How many of you get emails which are like numbering more than 300 a day? Right? Almost 60-70% of the room. The way the rejection monster operates on emails is, it checks, is this a known person? It checks the subject line and quickly slays the emails. It gobbles up the emails like nobody's business. So I recently got an email, and the email started off on a very promising note. It basically said, Apurv, it was customized, they were using mail merge software. Would you like to know what would marketing lead to in 10 years from now? Good, powerful subject line. The mistake they did is, 10 years is too long for anybody now. For us, 6 months is midterm, maximum 1 year is long term. That's the nature of business now. Business has become very agile. Great mail, provocative subject line, but timing was wrong. The duration was too long for anybody. Rejection monster ate it up, gulped it down so fast. Now, the third thing is annoying content. A lot of us are guilty, even as sales reps, of sending content which is very generic, of sharing brochures or posting on Facebook or LinkedIn stuff which is very, very generic. And this often happens because we curate content and we don't write content. Now, how many of us find writing difficult? Quick show of hands. Okay, 50%. Others are too tired, I must say. It can't be that only 50%. And I'm saying this in spite of being an author. So my first book came out in January. It's an Amazon bestseller. And it's called You Are the Key, Unlocking Doors Through Social Selling. It's a book on social selling. And I found writing it incredibly difficult. I thought, I could do a good job of emails, but writing a book or writing original content is very difficult. It's always better to curate. But when you curate, make sure that the content is not irreverent. Otherwise, my best friend, rejection monster, is going to eat the content. Junk mail. A lot of us are guilty of using software to download and create a leads database. Either we procure leads, which marketing sends to us, or we pick up email IDs from events or affiliate marketing channels. Recently, somebody contacted me, and they said, Apurva, you work with HCL, and your laptop business is growing very fast, and we wanted to come and meet you to cut your supply chain cost by 30%. I said, seriously? That's a separate HCL. I don't work in supply chain. Completely irrelevant. Rejection monster burped, quickly ate it up. Ill-timed. There are days which are really bad. Mondays are terrible days for any C-suite exec. We get in and we don't even realize it's 7 o'clock in the evening. And it's brutal. We are trying to catch up on work because we have not often checked mails other than from our CEO over the weekend. Fridays are equally bad because everybody's in the mood to get out. We don't want to, reply to vendor emails. So sense of timing. And if you reach out at the wrong timing, rejection monster is not going to give you a chance. Now, how do you beat this rejection monster? And I'm going to share a secret. I'm going to give you a kryptonite using which you can put it under the rejection monster's neck, and the rejection monster will go down. Prepare very well. If you're going to meet a C-level exec, make sure you know everything about that exec. And tools like LinkedIn are fantastic. Right from education to interests to hobbies to who are the mutual connections to what are they passionate about. And at the end of the session, I'll show you my LinkedIn frames. And you will see that before you meet me, you can almost know 60-70% of what interests me. That's invaluable. So if you're prepared, second is prioritize. Now, all of us want to do multiple things. And some are more important than others. And for a lot of us, the urgent often takes over the important. It might be important for me, but if it's not urgent for me, you're not going to get time on my calendar for the next 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. And often there will be multiple times the meeting will get rescheduled. We don't do it willingly, but we have to do it because there is something which is urgent and it wins over the important. So if you prioritize, it's going to give a good bash to the rejection monster, breaking it down. Third is knowledge. When you come in with a generic presentation, a generic approach, which is not tailored to my industry, and more specifically to me, it doesn't work. We've had agencies come in trying to sell us programmatic advertising, and they have come in through a large network. And we have taken the meeting because they've come in through an advertising agency's CEO, which serves us. But we are a B2B company. We don't spend a lot of money on digital buying, other than with our friends at LinkedIn. And we are like, you're trying to sell us programmatic. We don't spend like $10 and $20 million on programmatic. So how is this relevant to us? And the seller has had no answer to that. So be very, very relevant. Third is differentiate. In any large, so HCL at $7 billion would possibly be a Fortune 300 company if we were listed in US. When you're coming to meet me, or you're coming to meet any of my colleagues who are chief marketing officers, in all possibility, we already have a very strong vendor ecosystem. Our work is getting done. So you're not trying to sell me anything which doesn't exist. If it already exists, in the first 3-4 minutes, If you can't make it very clear why are you differentiated and how are you differentiated, it won't hold stead. And it won't help you beat the rejection monster. Fifth, call out the value very clearly. Help us win against our competitors. All of us are in very, very competitive market spaces. In the industry I operate, we compete with companies which are $33 billion. There is a three-letter worded company which is $50 billion. So the way you should look at value is there are two value zones. The first value zone is the value you create between yourself as a seller and me, the customer. The second value zone is what can you do to make me more competitive between me and my customer. So please look at both value zone 1 and value zone 2. With that, you can kill the rejection monster. Monsters, Kryptonite, and I'll show you a very interesting video and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
My name is Mohammad Shahid Nazir Ahmed. I sell fish.
Shahid, Caroline, lovely to meet you. Welcome to the Extra Factor.
Yeah.
I recognise you. Where might I know you from?
I'm from Pakistan.
Are you the one-pound fish man?
I'm the internet sensation.
He's the one-pound fish man! £6, £5, £1 fish. Yeah!
Very, very cheap.
Wow, nice to meet you.
The first day on the fish stall, to sell the fish, I need the shout. And I think shouting is a very tough job. Singing is my hobby, so I decided to sing. Everyone said, you should go to X Factor, you have good voice, you have good song, you should go to X Factor. That's why today I'm here.
So before the fish song, you had no intention of ever entering the X Factor?
No, never.
I love this.
My singing has been success on the fish stall. I want to be a successful singer. It's my dream.
Hello, sir. What's your name?
Mohammad Shahid.
And where are you from?
I'm living in East Ham.
In East Ham. What's your job?
I'm fish salesman.
You sell fish?
You like fish?
Yeah.
I love fish. How long have you been singing for?
Singing is my childhood hobby.
Have you ever recorded anything?
Some people record my video and put on the YouTube.
Oh, really? So you have a video on YouTube?
Yeah, within two months, 2 million views on the YouTube.
No way.
He's the one-pound fish man.
What's the song called?
£1 fish song.
People love it. Do you know it?
£1 fish
Yes.
song. Do you know it?
Okay.
I think you should sing.
Come on, ladies, £1 fish. Come on, ladies, £1 fish. £1 fish. Have a look. £1 fish. Have a look. £1 fish. Very, very good. £1 fish. Very, very cheap. £1 fish. 6, 4, 5 pound, £1 each. 6, 4, 5 pound, £1 each. Very, very good and very, very cheap. £1 fish today, £1 fish. Come on, Gary, come on. £1 fish. Come on, Rita, come on. £1 fish. Come on, Louis, come on. £1 fish. Come on, Lisa, come on. £1 fish. Fish today, £1 fish today, £1 fish today, £1 fish today, £1. Come on, ladies, today fish £1 each. £1 each, £1 each.
So what struck me as particularly amazing about this video is this is a great example of content marketing. And let me explain why. There can be no market which is more competitive than a fish market. Everybody buys fish from the same fish trawler, which is carried the produce in the morning. He's buying it from the same fish trawler. Today, Muhammad Salim's fish sells at 40% premium. Wouldn't all of us like to sell deals which are 40% more expensive? Right? Hugely differentiated. He's a celebrity seller. The most interesting part about this video which I found is a very authentic voice. If you are on social media and you don't have a very authentic voice, it's not going to work. You're not competing with other sellers. When you are targeting a C-level exec, you're not competing with your peers from other companies. You're pretty much competing with everybody's boring, mundane lives. Is your mail the most interesting thing which will delight them? Is your in-mail the most exciting thing they've seen in the day? So how do you make content which is viral worthy? And that comes from authenticity. So best of luck with defeating the monster. Bell the rejection monster. Couple of frames from LinkedIn. So that's my LinkedIn page. Like if you actually go there, you can see a lot about me. You can see that I'm also an author. I've published on Huffington Post, New York Times, Washington Street Post. A lot of case studies published on my work. What I would strongly recommend is write down 3 things you've learned from all the sessions today and go out and practice social selling on LinkedIn. My experience with training and conferences is when you go back, 90% goes out of the brain 3 days from the conference. Happy social selling, and thank you.
I just have to say thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you, Melissa.
I am feeling very proud of my team that I think we beat the rejection monster, knowing how hard that is. And you shared with us that we can learn about 60% about you from your LinkedIn profile. How about you share with us one thing about you that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Okay. So what is not on my LinkedIn profile is last November, I became an advisor to Government of India. And I'm working with the Prime Minister's office in India to transform the citizen services experience in India. And I'm advising them on digital transformation. And the reason why it's not on LinkedIn is for the simple reason. I'm doing this more out of my passion for changing the lives of Indians, fellow citizens in India. And I don't want to call it charity, but it's almost like it's a good deed, which I'm doing. So I just want to keep it off LinkedIn.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us and this group. So you have done a lot of great work in social selling.
Thank you.
How did you come to find LinkedIn as a potential solution?
So our social selling journey started almost 4.5 years ago. And I used to run sales excellence for HCL. And I had moved into this role. Prior to this role, I was a sales director in Princeton, North America, and I used to run sales in healthcare. And when I moved to a sales excellence role, what I realized is, our average sales productivity is not really going up. And the construct which I used to think about from a sales management perspective was, sales productivity is a factor of 3 V's and 2 E's. So the first V is volume. If every sales guy pursues more opportunities, great. Second is velocity. How do you reduce the time taken to close a deal? And third is actually average deal size, which is value of a deal. 3 V's and 2 E's were efficiency, how do you reduce cost of sales, and effectiveness on how do you increase bid to win ratio. And my sales management model was very simple. If we optimize 3 V's and 2 E's, we'll become a killer sales force. And HCL is always known in the market as being an outstanding sales and marketing company. So we started looking at what is really changing in the world. What is happening to the customers? Because everything starts with the customer. And we realized that traditionally you always thought, Facebook is for personal, and LinkedIn is for professional, and Twitter is where you want to meet people whom you would never meet otherwise, right? That's all changing. And it's just changing so fast that 4 years ago, we realized that a lot of our senior leaders are not on LinkedIn. Most of our salespeople are not on LinkedIn. And the problem was most successful sellers thought they didn't need LinkedIn. They were very happy basking in their glory of being successful salespeople. So we wanted to shake up the model. And we realized that there are many tools you can do it at. But LinkedIn was possibly the most integrated, comprehensive tool which sales guys could use. See, salespeople are very busy people. Anything which does not give them $1 immediately they are not interested. They are not interested in learning something very complicated, right? LinkedIn was easy to use, intuitive UI, very comprehensive. Our customers were there, so it was a very easy decision.
That's great. And we do hear that some of the best sellers feel like they've already got it figured out. And do they need an additional tool? But that's why they created the word better, right? If you're the best, you could still be better. And that's what we've seen. We've put up on the screen some of the results that your team has had. But it probably wasn't exactly easy when you got started.
Exactly. So we are a company which is obsessed on what we call the granularity of growth. We are obsessed with numbers. We are very, very data-driven. And anything which gives you results which are more poetic and not backed by hard numbers. And we have a central team which audits 100% of marketing numbers. So we can't fly under the radar by saying, this salesperson sent us a nice mail saying we impacted this deal. So everything is measured using Salesforce.com. And we use Eloqua for marketing automation. So for us, it was very, very important to show numbers to get more salespeople excited.
Right.
So what we actually did is when we started our journey of social selling, we picked out two kinds of sellers. People who were fantastic and who were looked up to, and people who were not doing really well. And we wanted to show that it can make a meaningful difference to both kinds of sellers.
Okay.
So people who were super sellers, they would become stupendous sellers. And people who were not doing so well, in most organizations, at least 30% people don't meet their quota. And when I talk about meeting their quota, even if your quota is $100 and you do 99, you're not meeting your quota. You can't just miss it and say that I missed it by 2%. So we picked out both sets of people. And using LinkedIn, we showed a significant difference in the number of connections they had and the number of accounts they had penetrated in. We provided them with very high quality content. And, people started taking a sense of pride. They started becoming brands in their industry, right? And they started getting a lot of heat from inbound traffic. In fact, I think we were very late to use InMail because our sellers started getting a lot of inbound traffic. And they were like, wow, this director of IT whom I was trying to reach out to, who really didn't respond to my mails, is now writing into me and saying, can we meet up? So that worked really well for us. And that's how our journey started.
I think there's nothing to get salespeople bought in than saying you're going to get more inbound leads. If I could just sit at my computer and watch the leads come in. If we were all that lucky. But what advice do you have? A lot of people out in the audience today are just starting on their social selling journey. What advice do you have for them on how to make it the most impactful it can be?
So I'll give you a very practical advice. Download all the LinkedIn apps. There are 4 or 5 apps which LinkedIn has. It doesn't matter if you don't download the Jobs app, but download everything else. I know I used to be in sales in North America, and at times I would only get to my laptop once in 2 days or 3 days. I was always on the road and going with my account managers and sales reps for meetings. And before meetings, we were doing a brief. After meetings, we were doing a debrief. In the evenings, we were taking a client out for dinner. So if you think you're going to open your laptop and then, write a very nice mail, and all our scripts for all sales guys are written on Notepad. So iPhone or even Samsung will have a Notepad. We've put all customized scripts there, which they can use and paste. We've got people to drive LinkedIn downloads. So everybody has these 4 apps of LinkedIn. Mobile is the only way to go. And that's the fastest way to get on the social selling journey. There are many other tips, but start with that. Every day before you start your day and before you close your day, spend 10 minutes on LinkedIn, if not more. Initially, you might not figure out what is the right thing to respond to a customer or prospect. Do a very simple thing. Just like somebody's post. Reshare it. Congratulate them. Just that is going to drive a lot of traction. And I want to wish all of you the best. And I wanted to wish you a great year ahead.
Oh, thank you, Apurva, so much. We really appreciate it. You sharing your experience and how we can fight the rejection monster. But also congratulations to you on the great work that your team has been doing as early adopter of social selling and being able to see the results.
Thank you. Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.